Pantyhose made woman. I had been the only man in a small office with 6 women ever since I started working there 2 years earlier. Through losing my first job during the recession, I had applied everywhere without luck until this small company finally gave me a chance. Over time, I actually came to enjoy the job and the easygoing atmosphere. All of my coworkers were around my age, late 20s to early 30s, and we all handled similar tasks: filing documents, filling out forms, and entering data. The dress code was business casual. I had to wear a button-down shirt with nice pants, while the women usually wore slacks with stylish tops. Every once in a while, one of them would show up in a skirt or dress, but it wasn't common. One afternoon at lunch, the conversation drifted toward fashion, something I usually tried to stay out of because I knew very little about it. Till the women liked pulling me into the discussion and asking what men thought about certain styles. That day they asked me what I liked or what men generally preferred. Through trying to dodge the question for a while, I finally answered honestly. "I think a lot of guys like seeing women in a nice dress or skirt with nylons," I said. Then I added that I never understood why hardly anyone wore them to the office. The reaction was immediate laughter. Julie looked straight at me and said, "You realize if we wore skirts or dresses here, we'd be expected to wear nylons too, right?" I shrugged and said, "So?" Almost in unison they replied, "Because we hate wearing them." They went on to explain that many people considered them uncomfortable and outdated. I laughed and said they couldn't be that bad, adding that I'd always thought they looked nice. Julie raised an eyebrow and asked, "Have you ever had to wear pantyhose or a skirt?" "Of course not," I replied. "I'm a guy." Everyone laughed and the conversation moved on, but Janet soon circled back and asked if men really preferred that look. I repeated that I thought it looked good. That comment didn't land well. Becky crossed her arms and said my opinion sounded a bit old-fashioned. The others seemed to agree, and suddenly I felt like I had stepped into a trap. I tried explaining that it was just my personal opinion, but the mood at the table had already shifted. The rest of the afternoon was awkward. The office felt unusually quiet, and the next day the women even went to lunch without inviting me. Later that afternoon, Julie and Becky came over to my desk. "Did you really mean what you said yesterday?" Julie asked. I quickly tried to backtrack. "Not really. I mean, everyone should wear whatever they want. I didn't mean to offend anyone." Julie folded her arms. "Well, the damage is already done. There are 6 annoyed women in this office now." Feeling guilty, I apologized again and asked what I could do to make it right. I even offered to buy lunch for everyone or take on extra work. They exchanged a glance and said they would think about it. The next morning, all 6 of them approached my desk together. "So," Julie said, "you told us yesterday you'd do anything to make it up to us. Did you mean that?" I nodded, assuming they were going to ask for coffee runs or a week of lunches. Instead, Julie smiled mischievously. "We've come up with a way for you to prove your point," she said. "If you really think skirts and nylons are no big deal, you can wear them to work for the next week." The office went silent as I stared at them in surprise. Julie finished with a grin. "Do that and we'll consider the matter settled. And maybe we'll even start wearing dresses here once in a while too." I glanced up at the table and saw 6 serious faces staring back at me. "You want me to wear a skirt?" I asked cautiously. Julie shook her head with a teasing smile. "Not just a skirt. If we had to do it, you'd have to do it properly, nylons too." The whole time, I hesitated, unsure whether they were serious or just pushing my buttons. Julie leaned forward and challenged me. "Well, let's see if you actually stand by what you said or if you're just another guy talking big." I swallowed and tried to sound confident. "Fine. I'll do it, but on 2 conditions." They all leaned in. "First, no making fun of me. And second, I only wear the skirts or dresses here at the office." They exchanged quick glances before Julie answered. "Deal, with one addition. The nylons stay on all day, from when you get up until you go to bed." I looked around the room, feeling every pair of eyes on me. Finally, I nodded. All right. Deal. For a moment they looked a little surprised, as if they hadn't expected me to agree. I figured the whole challenge would probably fade away after a day or two anyway. The rest of the week went by normally until Friday afternoon. Julie walked by my desk and casually said, "Sunday evening, come over to my place. We'll get you fitted for the nylons and show you how they work." Sunday arrived sooner than I expected. When I pulled into Julie's driveway that evening, my stomach dropped. 5 other cars were parked there: Becky's, Janet's, Monica's, Heather's, and Laura's. For a moment I considered turning around and leaving. Instead, I forced myself out of the car and walked to the door. Julie answered and led me inside. In the living room, all the others were sitting together, clearly waiting for me. On the floor was a pile of clothing and several unopened packages of pantyhose. Julie handed me a drink and said cheerfully, "We'll need to see what fits you. But first, bathroom." Before I knew it, I was being directed down the hallway. Once inside, Julie handed me a razor and explained I needed to shower and shave my legs. "Why?" I asked, confused. She laughed. "You don't want hairy legs showing through nylons, do you? Besides, hair can snag them." Reluctantly, I did what they asked. After finishing, I wrapped a towel around my waist and stepped back into the living room. "Okay," I said nervously. "Done." Julie grabbed a package of pantyhose and a skirt from the pile and guided me into her bedroom. "All right," she said. "Let's show you how to put these on." I dropped the towel but kept my boxers on. Julie shook her head immediately. "You can't wear those with pantyhose," she said. "Well, I'm not going without anything," I replied quickly. "Hold on." She walked over to her dresser, opened a drawer, and tossed something toward me. I caught it and realized it was a brand new pair of women's panties, soft and beige. "Try those," Julie said. "They'll work better." Feeling awkward, I changed quickly while she looked away. The fabric felt smooth and stretchy, fitting higher on the waist than anything I'd worn before. When Julie turned back around, she nodded approvingly. "Good," she said with a small grin. "Those fit perfectly. Looks like we'll have to get you a few more pairs." I was told to sit on the bed and lift one leg. Julie came over with a pair of pantyhose, demonstrating how to slip my foot in and carefully roll it up to my knee. I repeated the process with the other leg. Once both legs were covered, she instructed me to pull the pantyhose up my thighs until just below my crotch, then slip my hands inside the top to pull them snugly to my waist. Finally, I adjusted the fit and was ready to try on skirts. After trying 3 different skirts, I found a pale blue one that zipped up the side comfortably, falling just below my knees. Julie led me into the living room to show everyone, and the girls clapped. Janet asked about the sizes. Julie answered, "The skirt is a 10. The pantyhose are queen size and the panties are a 6. There was a brief silence, then Julie noted I was wearing boxers, which wouldn't work. Heather laughed and commented that we'd need to go shopping. Julie reminded me, "You can change and go home, but remember, wear the panties and pantyhose in the morning and put the skirt on when you reach the office." I left thinking, what am I doing? The next morning I showered, shaved, and got dressed. I put on the panties, suntan pantyhose, shirt, dockers, socks, and work shoes. With the pantyhose on, my pants slid on effortlessly and my legs felt silky as I walked. Once at work, I went to the bathroom, removed my pants, socks, and shoes, then pulled on the skirt, zipped it, and put my shoes back on. Walking back to my desk, I noticed the gentle massaging feeling of the pantyhose. The skirt, however, restricted my stride slightly. Sitting at my desk, I began my work. The women noticed the skirt but didn't comment until Monica came over and taught me how to sit properly, brush the skirt under me, and keep my knees together. Laura then suggested I needed better shoes. She asked my size and promised to get something suitable. The day involved lots of walking around the office, running errands, and filing. When quitting time arrived, I changed back into pants and shoes. Janet stopped me before I left and asked, "You're still wearing the pantyhose, right?" I nodded, and she told me I could skip socks. That evening, we met at Julie's for dinner. I changed into jeans and a polo but kept the pantyhose on. Dinner, the girls asked about my experience. I admitted that so far, the only challenge was keeping my knees together. I also mentioned my jeans felt looser, which they explained was due to the thinner, compression-friendly panties. Julie gifted me another skirt, pantyhose, control panties, and Laura brought me new shoes, a black, wide-heeled ankle-strap pair. On day 2, I repeated the routine: black panties, black pantyhose, dark blue shirt, black pants, and shoes. At work, I swapped the pants for a black knee-length skirt and heels. Walking was slightly trickier but manageable. The women complimented my legs and shoes. I was reminded to bend at the knees for lower drawers to avoid exposing myself. Despite minor inconveniences in the bathroom, I began enjoying the silky sensation of the pantyhose. That evening at Julie's, I kept the pantyhose on under casual clothes and discussed my experiences. Day 3, I wore white lace panties, white lace pantyhose, and a red skirt. This skirt was a little shorter, riding up occasionally but fit well at the waist. At my desk, I noticed the pattern of the pantyhose attracted attention and compliments. Lunchtime, the women offered to go out, but I declined, feeling too self-conscious in the skirt. They just laughed and left, leaving me to finish the afternoon alone. Most of it was routine, except for several grueling hours in the file room searching for some important documents. Balancing on my heels while bending at the knees to prevent my skirt from riding up was awkward, but I managed it and finally completed the task. When I went to the bathroom to change, I discovered my shoes, pants, house keys, and car keys were gone. Panic set in. I called each of the women, but none of them had seen them or knew where they were. Julie returned to the office and helped me search, but everything was still missing. Finally, Julie said, "You'll just have to come home with me." I followed her to her house, where I had dinner and spent the evening still wearing the skirt. She teased me, "So tired of pantyhose and skirts yet?" Giving up, I shook my head. I was determined to see this little challenge through. Before bed, Julie handed me a knee-length satin nightdress, matching the one she wore, and told me to wear it to bed. Day 4 arrived quickly. Julie handed me a razor, urging me to hurry. I showered, shaved, washed my hair, dried off, and wrapped a towel around my waist. I protested, "I have no clothes to wear. I can't go to work." Julie just smiled. "Don't worry. I'll find something for you." She handed me red satin panties, nude pantyhose, a black skirt, and a white blouse. Reluctantly, I dressed in her selections, slipped on my high heels, and followed her outside, only to discover her car wouldn't start. Panic welled up again. "We can't take the bus," I exclaimed. Julie reminded me of the important teleconference and assured me no one would notice. Back inside, she instructed me to remove the blouse. Then she produced a white bra and 2 nylons filled with rice. Carefully, she put the bra on me, filled the cups with the nylons, replaced the blouse, and had me sit at her vanity. The vanity, she transformed me: foundation, eyeliner, mascara, blush, lipstick, and finally a curly blonde wig. "Ready? Let's go," she said. I barely recognized myself. Handing me a purse, she led me out the door to the bus stop. The wind caught my skirt, the pantyhose hugged my legs, and the satin panties pressed against my rear, a full sensory overload. We rode the bus for 5 miles, then walked the final block to the office. The bounce of the faux breasts, the feel of the nylons, and the skirt flaring in the breeze consumed my thoughts the entire way. At the office, I faced a flight of stairs and a chorus of compliments. Julie explained that since we took the bus, she had dressed me up so I wouldn't stand out, and reminded everyone about my lost keys and lack of personal clothes. Becky approached and offered to file my nails, and I didn't resist. The day passed pleasantly. Our teleconference went smoothly, and afterward, Becky drove us to Julie's house, where all the women were waiting. Dinner and drinks were filled with compliments on my appearance. Then came a surprise. They had prepared a gift for my final day. I was given a yellow dress trimmed with white lace, a matching yellow bra, panties, and a garter belt with suntan hold-up nylons. I was told I could skip the dress and wear a skirt if I preferred, but the garter belt and nylons were mandatory to complete the week and the challenge. I told them I would wear the dress since they had bought it for me. On day 5, I stayed at Julie's again, wearing the satin nightdress. Early in the morning, Julie woke me to get ready for work. I showered, shaved, and put on the panties and garter belt, but needed Julie's help to attach the stockings to the garter tabs, fasten the bra, and apply my makeup. Once again, my face was transformed with foundation, eyeliner, mascara, blush, and lipstick, and Julie helped me fit a wig in place. I slipped into the yellow dress and my high-heeled shoes. Julie handed me a purse, and this time we drove to work in her car, which had been fixed. The feeling of wearing the outfit was intense. The cool air on my bare thighs, the gentle tug of the garters, the sway of the dress with every step. My senses were overwhelmed all day. The end of the day, Janet approached me with a bag containing my pants, shoes, and keys. Cleaning staff had found them and returned everything. Later, back at Julie's, I recounted my experience over drinks. I loved it, I admitted. They stared, mouths open, and after a brief silence, I added, other than my clothes disappearing, I really loved the whole experience. If I could, I'd wear nylons all the time. They feel incredible on my legs. They asked about the gartered stockings. Those are so sexy, I confessed. I love them too. Becky exclaimed, what? How? We pick things we thought you'd hate. I just smiled. Guess it didn't work out that way. You've converted me. I love nylons even more now. I clarified that while I didn't expect to wear dresses and makeup regularly, I would absolutely wear nylons again. The following Monday at work, the women continued to wear skirts and dresses, some even admitting to garters and stockings. I kept wearing pantyhose as well. Over time, I started dating Julie, and we've had a wonderful relationship since. By Christmas, the office surprised me with gifts. Each woman had given me pantyhose, stockings, panties, and a few skirts. I was also told I could wear skirts at work anytime, as long as I wore nylons according to office rules. That's how nylons became a permanent part of my life.